Manchester United are in a battle of the egos for Manuel Ugarte. We get a here we go to sign a highly regarded youngster. Juventus are in talks with personal terms for Jadon Sancho. Casemiro exit remains open. All this plus all the latest Manchester United news and transfer news that will keep you right up to date with everything. Welcome to Man United Review. My name's Jamie. Before we get into it, please smash a like on the video and let's jump straight into it. So loads to go through to this morning. Been loads of news over the last 24 hours. Let's kick off with our new signing. So Manchester United agree a deal to sign 2006-born Mali international talent Sékou Koné from Guiders FC. Here we go. Kone was on the list of several clubs, but Manchester United have agreed a deal today. Considered a top talent. He's part of long-term plans similar to Chido Obi Martin that came as an exclusive from Fabrizio Romano. Laurie Whitwell, very credible source, said Manchester United plan to play Kone in the under-21s while he adjusts to life in England. Kone is viewed as having high potential, and while he is one for the future, he is hoped he will provide an option for the first team at number 6 in the long term. Now, not a player I've ever heard of before, not going to lie to you. I've probably been like most of yous, watched all his kind of clips, but you can't really tell the profile of clips. Doing a bit of research and stuff, he is a very highly sought after youngster. He's been on a few like talent ID websites as being in the ones to watch from the under 21, from the under 17s World Cup. So very, very highly thought after. 18 years old. Wanted by other Premier League teams. I think Wolves were interested in him in July. Described as the best defensive midfielder at the under-17s World Cup, and has been dubbed, I've heard, like the next Yaya Toure, the next Michael Essien. He's apparently a very, very highly regarded defensive midfielder. So I'm massively excited. These are the sort of transfers that I absolutely love. An unknown gem plucked from the middle of nowhere that nobody's heard of before that could potentially go on to be an absolute baller. And with his reputation, this could be one of those. Obviously, we need to wait to see how he settles and all of that stuff. But very, very exciting player. Like I'm here for this sort of shit all day. These are the sort of transfers that I absolutely love. It's going to be massively exciting to watch his progression along with Chido Obi Martin. And then we've obviously got Lenny Yoro as well. That's only 18 years of old. I think people forget how young Lenny Yoro is. All of a sudden, you've got an 18-year-old defender, and Lenny Yoro's classed as the best around. This boy's meant to be one of the best defensive midfielders at the under-17s World Cup. And then Chido Obi Martin is touted as being one of the best academy strikers around. So the spine of United could potentially already be sorted in years to come if they develop the way that they should. And there's nothing to suggest like that's the one thing United have got right over recent years is the youth development, bringing through those players, the pathway to the first team. I think so. I'm massively excited. Smash a like on the video if you are, and let me know in the comments what you think about Kone signing. But yeah, massively exciting for me personally. Now let's move on to the other midfielder that we're going to be looking very likely to sign, Manuel Ugarte. There's still, a lot of the rumors are still it's getting close. It's very close. I mean, we're at that kind of final stage, but there's been a few interesting updates to go through. So first of all, Fabrizio Romano said that here we go for Manuel Ugarte could be in the next days because Manchester United are advancing very well. Fabrizio Romano also said, I think these reports of Manchester United leaving negotiations for Ugarte to focus on alternatives is a strategy for United to scare Paris Saint-Germain. A lot of the other reports did say maybe that is negotiation tactics with United. So Romano kind of confirming that is pretty much the case. He did say that Ugarte is United's first, second and third choice midfielder, and he seems to be the only one that we're really heavily going for at the moment. And Romano also said that Manuel Ugarte's message to PSG this week, let me go to Manchester United. And then we had Sky Sports saying a broad agreement on many aspects of the deal for Manuel Ugarte is now understood to be closed. There was a big gap in valuation earlier in the window, but both clubs have found room to compromise on the price. Remember, PSG are wanting 60 million euros. United have offered around 50 million euros. Apparently PSG were not going to budge. Not going to budge. They don't want to lose what they kind of paid for him. You know, is there a world where we pay the 60 million euros? I think potentially. I don't think it'll be in a lump sum. It might be 50 plus 5 in easy add-ons, plus 5 in, you know, shit add-ons like Ballon d'Or winner and Champions League winner and that side of stuff to get it up to the 60 million pound mark, 60 million euro mark. That might be what we have to do to finally get this deal done. But he is clearly the player they want, and there's got to be a reason for that. I don't think Barada, Wilcox, Dan Ashworth, Ten Hag would be that obsessed with the player unless there was a specific. There's got to be a reason why we're so in for Ugarte, and you know, I think it is his skill set and the fact that he is seen. I bought you news ages ago. It was when we were first linked with the guy that was saying that he was seen as the perfect kind of partner for Mainu. There was news yesterday from Sky saying the same thing as well. So maybe they're adamant to get Ugarte in because they see him as the perfect player to get more out of Mainu. And if you can do that, then I'm all for it. But let me know what you think about that in the comments. And then there was more news regarding it. So Manchester United's deal to sign Manuel Ugarte from Paris Saint-Germain is thought to be imminent. It will likely be a season-long loan with an obligation to buy. That came from the Manchester Evening News. So good sources there. Fabrice Hawkins, who's a good source, says Manuel Ugarte is closer than ever to joining Manchester United. The outcome is near, but at this time there is still no total agreement between both clubs. Paris Saint-Germain wants 60 million euro. A loan with purchase option is also being studied. And then this was a bit of a spanner in the works from Duncan Castles. Now, Duncan Castles, normally I would say he's a hitty-missy journalist, where sometimes he's reliable, sometimes not reliable. He has been really credible, though, with some of his transfer news over the last few weeks, where he's even broke news ahead of David Ornstein. But whether this story, but I would still say, you know, take this with a pinch of salt, because that doesn't mean he's 100% accurate all the time. But he said one of the reasons why the Manuel Ugarte deal has been delayed is something of a battle of egos between Nasser Al-Khelaifi and Jim Ratcliffe, as PSG's owners did not like Ineos scoopering Qatar's bid to buy Man United. PSG expect the Ugarte deal to be done and also expect to secure a 60 million euro transfer fee. They will not be accepting a loan with obligation to buy. They want the cash as soon as possible. So Duncan Castles kind of suggesting that the reason this deal has been delayed is because obviously Ineos and Sir Jim beat the Qataris to buy Manchester United, so they're doing it as a bit of a like trying to teach him a lesson almost, or a bit of revenge in a way, where they're like, well, okay, well, you can't always get what you want, so we're gonna make you pay the full asking price for Ugarte. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. Would we have been in negotiations that long if they were playing games like that? I don't think Ineos. I think Ineos would have walked away months ago, personally, if that was true, because I don't think Jim Ratcliffe and everyone like that is willing to play those sort of games. You know, we walked away from Everton as soon as they were like, "Yeah, we want 70 million." We were like, "Right, see you later, bye." We're not entertaining that sort of negotiations, and I can't see that Dan Ashworth and everyone like that would still be negotiating with Ugarte if they were playing those sort of games. Personally, I just think it's classic negotiation tactics where PSG are holding out for the maximum value they can get, which is fair enough. We would do exactly the same if it was a player. Look at what's happening with Sancho. There's news on Sancho I'll bring you in a second, but we don't want to loan him out. We're not gonna pay his wages. Do you know what I mean? And we're holding out for the maximum that we can get for Jadon Sancho potentially at the end of the transfer window. And I think it's that with PSG personally. But you can let me know what you think in the comments. Plus, he was on his podcast with David Ornstein, and David Ornstein didn't mention anything about that he'd heard that. He was kind of a little bit like us, was like, well, it's a bit, he was almost like saying, well, it could be a loan, it could be an obligation to buy, and then negotiating on the price, was a little bit kind of unsure himself. And that's David Ornstein, who I think is the best journalist around at the moment when it comes to footy news. But you can let me know what you think about that in the comments. And then the Muppeteers, who are a really good source, said there's a lot of confidence from all parties that a deal for Ugarte will be done shortly. So all roads are pointing towards this. It's just a case. I think it will eventually get done. Just when it could be at the time you're watching this video, could go right down to the wire. This one, it's one of those where, I think everybody is just expecting it to happen, but are just waiting for the kind of official bits to get done, the announcements to get done, and the kind of there's still mixed messages about the type of deal, whether it's going to be a loan with an obligation to buy, whether we're going to pay the 60 million euros, whether PSG are going to lower their price. Do you know what I mean? It's just one of these. It's frustrating because it would have been nice to get Ugarte in. Obviously he's not going to play this weekend, but maybe on the bench for the Liverpool game. But then we've got the international break after that as well, haven't we? So, it is what it is. It is what it is. Right, and then Duncan Castle also came out saying that Manuel Ugarte's agent had a conversation with PSG on Wednesday night to update on the situation, and that United have explored alternative deals. They've explored the parameters of bringing De Jong, and Barcelona would be happy to sell him, but salary involved is immense, over £20 million. Again, that came from Duncan Castle, who has been, I just mentioned it, has been quite credible when it comes to transfer news and that recently, but prior to that, a little bit hitty-missy. But he's the most credible source that's come out linking us with Frankie de Jong. But Fabrizio Romano also said that that United talking to other midfielders is basically a game. They're not interested in any other midfielders. That only want Manuel Ugarte, and links with any other midfielders. It's just negotiation tactics from United. So this could be another one where they've kind of said, well, if you don't screw the nut, we're going to go for Frankie de Jong. That's what I think personally around that story. But I'll keep my ear to the ground and bring you any updates. But you can obviously let me know what you think in the comments. Now, let's move on to Sancho. So Sky Sports have said that Juventus have firm interest in signing Jadon Sancho and are exploring the conditions of a deal. Talks over personal terms have also taken place. Manchester United would consider suitable offers. Then for RMC Sport, who are they're one of the more credible Spanish outlets, they've got like 2.5 million followers on Twitter, said that Juventus have moved for Jadon Sancho today and are in negotiations with Manchester United. Fabrizio Romano said Jadon Sancho's chance of staying or leaving Manchester United is a 50-50 situation at this stage. If you remember, he said before that it was like 60-40 that he was going to be 60, he was going to be staying, 40 he was going to be leaving. So that's kind of dropped a little bit in Fabrizio's words. Dimarzio, who used to be really, really good, that like Dimarzio was the original Fabrizio, and then he started to kind of drop off a little bit, and Fabrizio kind of took over. But he said that Juventus are considering loan with 40 million obligation to buy, but Jadon Sancho's wages pose a problem. There's a shock. That's what we've been saying on here for months with Jadon Sancho. The problem is his wages. It's not necessarily the fee or anything like that. The fact he's on 250 grand a week. There's not many clubs out there that will afford those sort of wages unless you're talking about the big clubs. And a lot of the big clubs don't want Jadon Sancho because obviously there's question marks around his attitude and stuff. So it's one of these with Sancho. But I would be up for, like, if Juventus came in with a 40 million obligation to buy next season, that would be a good deal. Obviously, you've got to remember that the Juventus stories are that if they get rid of Chiesa, then they may make a move for Jadon Sancho, and there's a lot more noise going around with Chiesa potentially leaving. I think he's been linked with Barcelona in recent days, although, where they're going to find the money for that, but who knows? They've probably got a stash somewhere behind their sofa. They might be able to, or some more levers they can pull to get that done. But there's been a few more noise around Chiesa leaving, and if that happens, then Juventus might then have the funds available to go for Jadon Sancho, but we'll keep an eye on it. Fabrizio Romano has said that Manchester United considering Jadon Sancho's situation still open ahead of the final week of the summer transfer window. Juventus have made new contact with Sancho's camp, and he's still one of the main names on the list. So we've not really heard much regarding Sancho. Yes, there's been a little bit of noise with PSG being interested, and whether that's true or not, obviously we'll have to wait and see how it plays out. But yeah, really interesting that, say, Jadon Sancho and Juventus are actually now talking. That could be a positive. that might be one of the reasons why we're still hanging around for the Ugarte, to try and get the funds in, because obviously we know there's been reports in the past it's a sell to buy situation, so that could all be linked. But we'll have to kind of wait and see. But let me know what you think about Sancho going to Juventus in the comments. And Will Fish and Maxi Oyedele have officially left United. So Will Fish, Manchester United could receive up to £2 million from Will Fish's transfer to Cardiff City. The defender is due to have his medical today. And Maxi has completed his permanent move to Liga Walsall. The transfer fee depends on a number of appearances. United have a high resale percentage, a pre-emption clause, and a buyback clause as well that came from Simon Peach, who's quite credible. So both players have officially left, and United have done what they've done with all the youngsters we've sold this summer, putting all the clauses in, buyback, sell-on percentage, and kind of protecting themselves. So if these players go away and do really well, we're not going to end up with a Pogba situation when we end up having to spend millions to bring them back to United. So, and it is what it is. We can't hoard all these young players. And Ten Hag has openly said himself, if you're good at, he'll only bring through the youth players if they're better than the first team. So if they're letting players go, it must mean that they're not confident they're going to be better than what we've got, which is fair enough. But let me know what you think about that in the comments. And then Casemiro. So Fabrizio Romano said that Manchester United wanted to sell Casemiro this summer, but there is still no official proposals. But if something happens, the Casemiro story remains open. He also said that from now till next summer, I think many midfielders will be gone from Manchester United. My personal prediction is that McTominay and Casemiro this summer or next summer will leave. And the Manchester Evening News said that a loan move for Ugarte wouldn't necessitate the sale of Scott McTominay, but Manchester United remain open to offers for Casemiro and Christian Eriksen. So, is there a world where Ugarte is going to be Casemiro's replacement? Because it's always been thought that we're going to bring in Ugarte regardless. I don't know. Obviously, we've known for ages that Casemiro is one that United would look to sell. But it's just the interest from the Saudi Pro League has kind of dwindled with him. But I did mention before that might be because a lot of the Saudi Pro League's teams have been told they need to buy younger players and younger profile players first. But the more it gets towards the end of the transfer window, then potentially, there could be an option where they come in for Casemiro. But I don't know. Do you think it'd be a bit late now to sell Casemiro, considering he's going to start at the weekend? He's actually looked all right last couple of games. I don't think he's looked anywhere near as bad as last season. I do still think I'd like to have a bit more mobility in the midfield, which is where Ugarte comes in. But yeah, you let me know what you think in the comments. Do you think United are going to sell Casemiro this late in the transfer window, or do you think he's going to stay and then potentially be moved on next window? Let me know what you think in the comments. Now I'm just going to double check to make sure there's not been any more breaking news, because there's a tendency at the moment when I'm uploading my videos for news to break. So let me just double check. No, I can't see anything breaking. So that's you all up to date with the latest Manchester United news and transfer news. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I enjoy reading them. Smash a like on the video on your way out. Subscribe to the channel if you are new, and I will see you in the next one.